now my buffer is full. Then when the read head wants to read some more tape, it takes the tape out of the other side, which shortens the loop. When the loop gets short enough to go to this top hole, it says, okay, you need to give me some more. So basically, this guy feeding the tape and this guy reading the tape are really separated, and this vacuum column makes that process be separate. You don't have to keep starting and stopping this thing nearly as much. And the same thing on the tape outside here. One other little interesting thing about this magnetic tape is this little ring on the back here. It's called a write protect ring. So if we were, for example, running a copy job, and say we have a master tape here with all your employee records or whatever, and we just want to make a copy of it, what we want to make sure is, hey, the operator mounted it wrong or whatever, you don't want to wipe out your good tape. So you take out this write protect ring, and it's actually a sensor in the machine. If it does not see that write protect ring, it will not write to it. So it's kind of a fail-safe mechanism just to make sure you don't do it again.
So the 729 tape drives that you see, there are different models, and they have 200, 556, that's what people used in the past, or 800 characters per inch. So 800 characters, 10 IBM cards per inch. That's where we get that kind of density that we're talking about. They are state-of-the-art. They are state-of-the-art in the fact that right after we write every record, we read it back to make sure that it is readable, and if we don't, there's error things to go through. And finally, I want to mention high-speed rewind. When you're doing a job, you're not done until you've taken those tapes all the way off. And so if I've written 2,400 feet, I don't want to take 10 minutes to have that rewind. So the tape drives have built in a high-speed rewind. And what we'll do, we'll show you the high-speed rewind, pretend the job is over and show you the high-speed rewind. And what it will do is rewind at a very high speed until it gets close to the beginning. Then it will get into a low speed rewind so it doesn't fly off the end. So it actually unloads, lifts up the heads, and begins the high speed rewind. And you can see how fast that's going.
We'll actually do the whole tape in less than a minute.
And there goes the other one. We got just a tiny little bug. Actually, it should be rewinding both of them at high speed at the same time. And the number 1 drive is now in a low speed rewind. Number 2 is just now going into the low speed rewind. So the point is that these are built to get you through the operation quicker. So, point of all this is, ladies and gentlemen of the ABC Wholesale Company, if you order your 1401 today, we can begin programming and have you realize the benefit in just months. Well, that was 1960, right? Let's come forward now. Let's be in 2014. Come forward a few years. And we'll cover the price. We will absolutely cover the price. In order to do that and some other comparisons, who has a smartphone? If you hold that up, I need 2 people to hold up your smartphone. And I need 2 people because here's one over here and here's one over here. Okay, I need 2 people because your smartphone's really a computer as of today, right? Definitely. And so 2 computers. This room represents 2 computers. You see me running on one of them, and that's a whole duplicate 1401 over there. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the restoration project later. But first a question. If you have something in your smartphone, you got some data in there, and you want to find it, see it, look at it, how do you do it? How do you tell this that you want to see the output? What does your output look like when you see it? Anybody?
Comes on the screen.
Comes on the screen. There's certainly nothing like a screen here. In the 1959, 58, 59 time frame when this was being done, screens just simply weren't available. Well, there were a few on the most high-level secret projects, but they really weren't in common use at all. All your output on the 1401 was on this printer right here. Okay, so how do you get data into your computer? And you what? Talk? You tap? Take those. Getting the data into the 1401 was 100% by cards. That is, you went over to those, went over to those 1401, went over to those key punches, key punched the data, brought it over to the system, and that's how you got data in. So let's see, that's in and out. Storage. I want to mention storage. We mentioned that box of cards that, well, I apologize, I don't know where that's going to be. We mentioned that box of cards is 2,000 cards. If you have a 16 gig storage on your current iPhone, that's about 8 million boxes of cards. 8 million. One other. If I had a desktop computer and a smartphone and I want to get data back and forth, how do you do it? I'm sorry.
A cable you plug into.
Cable you plug into it. That certainly is one way. You can also use Wi-Fi and sometimes Bluetooth. But here's the cable, right? Here's the USB cable. You know, I plug your device to your device and connect it. Well, here we use this kind of cable. So that's your USB device, circa 1960. And we'll connect a little bit more about that too. I want to mention, by the way, my name is Jim Strickland, and this is Pat Booter. I was with IBM in this time frame. The very first useful work I ever did for IBM was programming a 1401. Spent a lot of time being trained, and that wasn't particularly useful, but I did do a 1401 for L.S. Ayres department store in Indianapolis, Indiana. What were you doing at that time, Pat?
I never actually worked on a 1401, but in 1964, my first paid computer job was on an IBM 1620, which had technology very similar to this.
They were actually almost twins during development, but one took a scientific path and the other took a business path, 1620. Okay, let's see. Oh, one other thing. This is PowerPoint, circa 1960. We didn't have PCs, right? So there wasn't any PowerPoint. But I want to tell you that millions and millions of dollars of IBM equipment were sold using easels and flip charts just like this. And by the way, I should say, the ABC company did indeed buy a 1401. They kept it for 7 years. They replaced it with an IBM 360. And they were only able to do that because the 360 could pretend it was a 1401. Otherwise, 360 never would have worked for you guys. Now, I had a question a minute ago about cost. I didn't mean to duck that, but I wanted to save it for now. May I ask what you paid for your smartphone?
$99.
$99. 300? Okay. The cost of this was $2,500 per month rental. Every month. That sounds like a cell phone payment. $2,500 a month rental. And that would be probably, what, $20,000 a month of today's dollars? And most people, that $2,500 a month was the entry point of the absolute minimum configuration that could just replace that record equipment, not do any more. Most people's systems cost $6,000, $8,000, or even $10,000 a month, which might be a couple $100,000 a month in today's money. So that answers your question.
But the
Well,
service came with it.
And service came with it, and that's very important. You don't think about servicing that very much. If it really goes bad, you get a new one, right? Service was really important here, primarily because these guys are really mechanical, lots of gears and belts and levers and so on, relays, and they got dirty and needed adjustment and so on, so there was a lot of mechanical work that had to be done preventively to keep these guys working. The electronics were really pretty solid, but of course, here's a card. You can kind of see, this little resistor is broken here, so you could have you could have problems with your SMS cards, but they were a lot less likely. So, yes, included service. One other quick thing, I'll just show you real quickly. We showed you some of those cables. Oh, your foot, let me try it again. There's 5 great big cables connected to this device. There's 3 great big cables connected to that device. You've seen the cable, that one that Pat showed you before was from tape drive to tape drive. So that's why we're on a raised floor, is because all these cables around there, it doesn't make sense to try and walk all over. Okay, well, let's see. Anything else I forgot? Okay. Well, in that case, we'll end the kind of formal demonstration. But if you have any questions, we'll certainly be trying to answer them, and be glad to do it. Any questions on the 1401?
How many tape units would a typical customer install?
Well, I don't know what a typical customer is. The 1401 could have only 6 max, but other big computers could have 10, 12, and I would guess that probably 12 or 14 would be sort of the maximum, even in 360 days.
Is it possible to read the card without the machine?
Is it possible to read the cards without the machine? Yes, it certainly is. This one isn't interpreted, is it? Yes, you just have to know the code. Code is very simple. If there's a hole punched in this row, it's a 0 and a 1 and a 2. So this says 1, 2, 3. Oh, it doesn't say. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So 0, 1, 2.
Let me get a you may have that. I don't need to take that away from you.
Regular card? Okay.
Is that one printed? No. How come I've handed out these ones that weren't printed? Anyway, this one's got some mother punches in it that make it different than what I expected. So let me skip those punches for a minute. If there's a 1, if there's a hole punch here, it's a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So if there's only one hole in the card, it's a 1 through 0 through 9. If there's what we call the 12 punch up here, you can see this, and a 1, that's an A. Then B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. And if there's an 11 punch and a 1, it's a J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, Q, R. And if there's a 0, 01 was a slash. 02 is an S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. There's your decoding. It's really pretty darn simple. Usually we hand those out printed, but we've been having some trouble with the printing on our tape punch machines. Any other questions?
Congratulations on being properly dressed. You didn't talk.
Absolutely. She said, congratulations on being properly dressed. This really was the IBM uniform of the 60s.
Thank you very much.
Dark suit, white shirt, conservative tie. That's the uniform. And the hat. And the hat. And, this is exactly the way I dressed for the first 20 years of my career.
Women had to wear gloves. I had to wear gloves.
And you had to wear gloves. Were you with IBM? Oh, you were? Really? Oh, yes.
I laughed about the tie.
Well, you were a system service girl.
Yes, I was.
Now, not many people. Not many people remember system service girls, but I do.
I know, that's true. When you say that, well, first of all, we called the door off the master source program.
Sorry about that. But that's where it was, right?